Well, our other big focus tonight, petrol and diesel prices have touched a new high, and this could spell more trouble for the economy. In Delhi, for example, the price of diesel has risen to a record high of 61 rupees 88 paise per litre, while petrol is at a 3-year high of 71 rupees 27 paise per litre. This is the highest recorded price of petrol since August of 2014, according to the Indian Oil Corporation, which is state-owned. Petrol prices have been increased by 9 paise per litre in Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata and Chennai, while diesel rates have been raised by 14 to 16 paise per litre in the 4 metros. So the question is, why is this happening? Well, global oil prices are rising for various geopolitical reasons, and crude is currently above $70 per barrel for the first time since December 2014. Now, that's a big worry given that India imports more than 80% of its energy needs, and therefore it will have a direct bearing on the Indian economy. The high oil prices will lead to inflation, for instance. The rupee is expected to weaken, and with higher inflation, the scope for rate cuts also reduces. All of this then further impacts private investment and growth. And all of this is happening just on the eve of the annual budget, which is going to be presented by Finance Minister Arun Jaitley on the 1st of February. Is the economy looking at some serious warning signs as we head into 2018? Well, joining us tonight is investment banker P.N. Vijay, economist Jagdish Shettigar, Mohammad Khan of the Congress Party, and M.K. Vinu, founding editor of The Wire. Mr. Vijay, let me take that question to you first, and also a warning given by CRISIL Research just today. CRISIL has talked about, and I just bring up that graphic as well, that there are 3 risks that the Indian economy is looking at. One is the lingering impact of domestic disruptions, asymmetry in monetary policies, and a spike in crude prices. They flagged these 3 as the big risks as we look at India into 2018. What would you say?
I would agree with CRISIL, and I would say that high oil prices is one of the most dangerous things that can happen to the Indian economy going into 2018. The oil prices have gone up both due to fundamentals, there's a commodity rally globally, and also due to short-term reasons like supply disruptions in Colombia, Venezuela, and ongoing in US-Iran trade-offs affecting oil supplies. Be that as it may, we enjoyed right from the time Modi came to power for 3.5 years an oil price boom for us when oil prices remained between 40 and 50, and the government did not pass on that benefit to us. The government kept increasing excise duties and customs duties and used that money for public investment. Now that room is no longer available to Arun Jaitley, and he's already fighting a fiscal deficit. And fortunately, the rupee is strong against the dollar, so that's one saving grace. But today, if we assume that the oil price remains at $70 to a barrel going through 2018, I think it's going to be a great challenge to the Indian economy, as you rightly pointed out, in terms of inflation, in terms of fiscal deficit, in terms of private investment. So I think Jaitley needs to do a lot of tightrope walking, because 1 year before the elections, he can't keep passing on the oil prices to customers. Then he'll have a political backlash. So let's see how he handles it.
Mr. Shettigar, how do you think that tightrope will be walked? I'm sure that you would broadly agree that these are challenges, for the economy in 2018. What do you think the finance minister can do?
Now, only alternative yes is bringing the petroleum products into the GST net, because there is a tax, because petroleum products have been kept out of the GST, though original recommendation of the tax reform committee is to bring the petroleum products into the GST net. Now, if they bring to the GST net, I am sure that the prices would come down by around 30 rupees per litre. And so that is the only options left out to the government. Otherwise, as Vijay has pointed out, it has got multiple impact through the transportation cost of production, inflation. Then the only thing that maybe if the rupee get weakened, that may help in the export, that's all. And also with the strengthening of the revenue in the case of the countries exporting the oil to India. So with the improvement in the revenue, they may import more from India. That is only the plus point, but overall I feel the negative impact on the economy. There is also the negative impact in terms of the current account deficit, and the fiscal deficit. As it is, government has been struggling because already they have crossed more than, right now I do not know, they have already crossed more than 96 or 97% of the target.
90s, yeah.
So there is not much room. I mean, government is struggling to adhere to the committed 3.2%. With these latest development, I don't think that the government will be able to adhere to that fiscal deficit target.
But as you think bringing petrol into GST is a solution? Venu, do you agree? And two, is there a case to be made here that when crude prices globally were actually low, that we shouldn't have messed around with our economy and done what we did, for instance, with demonetization and the way GST was implemented, because that CRISIL has actually highlighted as the hiccups that essentially, you know, they've actually said the global economy accelerated in 2017, but India couldn't join the bandwagon. It was tripped by demonetization and hiccups during the implementation of GST. Now, that was when crude prices were much lower. So, I mean, did we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot in the process?
Absolutely, Nidhi. This is something that even Ruchir Sharma had pointed out in your NDTV, that beginning of the year, discussion with Prannoy, Dr. Prannoy Roy, that India, whole of 2017, India was among the minority of the world economies, 1/4 of the world economy that did not see a GDP growth, did not see an export growth, and they just missed out on the global recovery, even employment growth. Many other economies are seeing 30-year lows in unemployment, even Japan, Europe, US. So what happened? So when this government came in early 2015, I remember Prime Minister Modi and Mr. Arun Jaitley often sort of claiming as an achievement that India was the only country among the BRICS that was standing up, and all others were actually the others were down because they were oil exporting, commodity exporting countries, so they were suffering. So today the situation is reverse. India is actually all other countries are doing much better. China, Brazil, and India is sitting out this great global recovery, and this is happening at a time when you are still struggling with this GST related issues. There is a lot of, the market is very worried about what kind of revenues will come from GST, and therefore I personally believe, I agree with him what Dr. Shettigar said, that they have to bring petroleum within GST, and they have said that, but they won't do it now because the petroleum taxes are so high that it's the only thing that is rescuing the government today. The actual price of petroleum net of taxes is about over 30 rupees, and imagine 60 and 70. So there is a 100% tax on petroleum. 100% of the price that obtains from when it comes out of the refinery. So they will not have the courage to bring petroleum products into GST. As yet, they'll wait for the GST to stabilize
before they do anything.
Yeah, because you don't know what kind of revenues GST will give.
But I want to ask the Congress, as the principal opposition, is there a blueprint that the party can offer, a suggestion, something constructive apart from the criticism? We know what the criticism is, but what would the Congress do in this situation?
Well, that question is often asked of us, and I think it's slightly unfair to level it at the opposition.
No, I'm just asking if you have an idea.
Well, and I see where you're coming from, but I would answer it in this way. When you're elected on the basis of your manifesto and the promises, you are given vast resources. You have enormous pools of talent, almost infinite resources when you come into power. It is how you marshal those resources and you use them that defines your term in government. Now, everything that you've said so far, all three panelists, is absolutely correct. We were doubly blessed, right? Oil prices at a historic low, matching the prices in the mid-90s. Worldwide economic growth between 2015 to 17. Had the government done absolutely nothing, the economy would have done better. But as you rightly pointed out, and CRISIL rightly points out, the two self-inflicted blows of demonetization and a hastily implemented GST hobbled us. Now, for the first time, Nidhi, you'll remember last week, the Prime Minister, in his 4-year term so far, acknowledged that jobs were a problem. He called together that Economic Advisory Council and for the very first time said, we need to focus on creating more jobs. Until that point, every single representative of the government would come forward and say that problem is being exaggerated by the opposition. There is no jobs crisis. Mudra is creating jobs. To which we would reply that if Mudra is indeed creating the kind of jobs you say it is, then it would be captured in the GDP figures. And I think this has largely to do with the fact that this government demonizes talent. It focuses too much on politics of personality and the personal charisma of the Prime Minister without bringing in talent. And I'll give you an example. We all remember the way Raghuram
They have some
Rajan was
pretty
hounded
good
out.
advisors on the economic advisory
Well,
panel to the PM.
too little, too late, because as you remember, these people, Surjit Bhalla et al., came in towards the very end of last year. And even then, what resources do they have? But the way the Prime Minister treats the subject, right, it's almost a secondary concern. If you've read Raghuram Rajan's book, he says he was barely consulted except by way of a sentence.